Yep.
I got it. Chuck, you've seen Thomas Bryant quite a lot, maybe not as long as anybody is. How do you feel he'll impact this team this season with what he brings right now?
I just think he's a kid that fits the culture here at IU. You know, he's a great teammate, all about the hustle plays, committed teammate. Obviously, his size plays a major role in how he can impact the program. But more importantly, I just think who he is as a person is the most significant thing. His energy, his thought process, being a part of a locker room. Yeah, I think those things are going to really help.
Tim, can kind of follow up on that, the impact a 6'11" kid who, like you said, has a high motor can have on the defense now, starting from next year?
Well, I think like Chuck said, you know, he has a great personality. It's probably not as flamboyant as Victor's, but it's a personality like that where you always enjoy being around him. And I think when you have personalities like that, they play with that personality. And you have to play defense with personality and intent. And I think he's a guy that's going to talk in that back line, which is very important to your defense. I think he has the ability to erase mistakes because he can block shots. But I also think he's the type of player, because of his mentality, that he'll slide over and take a charge if it calls for that. So he's going to need help, though, from the returning guys, because this is going to be new to him. People are going to be more physical than maybe he's used to. But that's where I think Yogi was asked the question about what is he going to do to help our defense get better. And I think Yogi's got to start holding people more accountable. And I think he will, because I think that's part of his development. That's what our team needs. And then that ultimately is going to be what he needs to get where he wants to go.
It's a kind of a basic question, but you compared the personality to Victor's a little bit. I mean, how unusual is it for a kid that young to be that good for a locker room, I guess, right away?
I don't know if I would say it's unusual. I think they all have their own personalities, but when you happen to be a high-level player and you have an opportunity to impact a team right away, to have that personality helps them blend in a little bit more with everybody else. The great thing about Thomas is, as highly regarded as he is, he just wants to be one of the guys. He's not going to come in here and feel entitled or feel like he's a high-level guy. He's going to come in here and work every day, and he's got that personality to do that.
Rob, what's your role been these past couple weeks this spring? What have you been doing on the road, recruiting, that kind of stuff? Can you just sort of detail what you've been doing out there?
Just what have you been doing?
Coach Buckley asks me that every day. Just been in the role of coaching on the court and then being able to recruit. So it's been being able to be out on the road recruiting and seeing some of these guys, the young guys that are in the upcoming classes.
For any of you guys, as guys like Yogi, Troy, and James give feedback on the NBA, James kind of really went into it as far as talking about they said he really has to improve defending both of those positions. That NBA feedback, hearing it from somebody else, how does that impact guys, and how does that impact telling guys, you know, here's really what you need to do, just as far as them hearing it from another voice?
You know, it's always good to hear it from a credible source. So, you know, I think anytime the NBA speaks to any of these kids, whether it's here at IU or anywhere else around the country, kids and families have a tendency to listen, and because they're hearing it directly from, you know, an organization. So I think, you know, for us, it allows us to have someone else maybe echo some of the things that we've been trying to get across throughout the year.
Do you think for the most part guys take that, and, you know, do you see quick implementation of that?
I think so. I think, you know, I think those guys take the information, they sit down with their families, and they kind of reflect on the type of year that they had as a team and individually, and say, you know what, that makes sense. I see how I can impact IU, whether it's on an offensive end or a defensive end, and surely how I can increase my stock for the following year.
I think it's similar to recruiting in that sometimes I think players feel like they get recruited because they shoot all the balls and they score all the points, and that's not necessarily what we look at when we go evaluate guys. And we like to see guys in a lot of different situations and settings. Sometimes it's off the ball, sometimes it's on the ball, sometimes it's when they don't play well, how do they impact their team with winning. And like Chuck said too, I think the feedback that we get pretty much echoes what Coach is trying to get them to do and what we we talk with them about too, so at least it reinforces, if you want to go and take that next step and keep playing basketball, these are the things that you really have to do. And fortunately, it's the same message that they get every day.
Chuck, maybe the overall impact of the entire recruiting class, and I'm not, are they allowed to talk to the walk about the walk?
No.
Okay. All right, so just leave them out of it, but the impact of this class not coming in, freshman class coming in.
Well, you know, these guys have done a great job prior to me getting here. So, you know, I think Yogi hit the nail on the head in terms of length. That's probably the most significant thing that stands out in my mind. Having 3 guys come on, join this team for the upcoming season who have the athleticism, the length, the intelligence, and then more importantly, that X factor. They can fit in with any group in any locker room. I think those things are going to really help us next year.
Do you feel next year you're finally have some depth to really go through a full rotation and do a little bit more of this trapping and pressing and with more bodies that you can rely on?
I think so, and I think it's one of those things too, where at least you can experiment with it and look at it in practice to see how it develops and see if they're ready. One of the things that you don't ever know, especially about new guys, is how they're going to be until you actually work with them. You can project and think about it. And, you know, I was kind of chuckling about the NFL draft. They're grading all these drafts, and nobody knows how those guys are going to perform. So I think it's the same thing. We feel really good about it because of the mentality of the 3 guys. We think that they're kind of growth mindset guys. They want to get better, they want to improve, they want to know how they can contribute to the team. And it's not just about them. And I think anytime you have that mentality, you have an opportunity to contribute. And I think that length and that speed and athleticism are going to allow us to extend the floor a little bit more, particularly on the defensive end. And then offensively, we're going to want to play even faster. So we're trying to push the pace more on offense and maybe be a little bit more aggressive defensively so we can create offense out of our defense.
How do you play even faster and not turn the ball over? I mean, you guys play pretty fast now. I mean, there's obviously that balance. How tough is that to play even faster?
He obviously hasn't been in any of our film sessions. When you watch the film, it's a little bit different where you can say, you got to get out, you got to run. And I think some of it too is you get fatigued and you need a blow. And so the more depth that you have, the more you can keep the pace up and you can run. But like with Yogi, for example, one of the big things for him is being more efficient with his dribble. And if you go back to the Northwestern game in Chicago in the Big Ten tournament, you see how fast he pushed the ball up the floor. And so we want to be able to play at that pace consistently. We want James to be able to push the ball that quickly and be more efficient with his dribbles and get it out. And I think those are the things that we've really been working on in the spring. So we do really feel like we can play a little bit faster.
The other part of that is just the development. You know, Coach Green is phenomenal at developing the skill set of these guys when they come in. And so the summer and the spring has been important with that, but when you have athletic, fast guys, and then you add to that skill set through development and drill, then you really can bring guys along. And that's been the case here at Indiana.
Time for one more question.
Tim, I guess kind of similar to what I asked Yogi, and it's a basic question, but this team embracing expectations where maybe a year ago you guys wanted to defy them. What's different about approaching a season with a group of college-aged guys in making sure that they don't get weighed down by something like that?
Well, we didn't believe the expectations last year, and we can't believe the expectations this year. I think it's the same mentality. All that matters is what you believe, and the group inside that locker room or that film room, wherever we are, we believed in ourselves and we felt like we could be a good basketball team. And now we can't believe that we're too good. And we've got to know that we've got to get better day by day. I think it was the same thing with the #1 team. You know, if Will Sheehy hadn't made that shot to send us to the Sweet 16, and would we have been the #1 team in the country? I don't know, maybe top 20. And so that team never felt like we've arrived, we're #1. And that's why I think we were able to stay up there in the polls and have the great season and win the Big Ten like we did. So we've got to really have a great mentality, and I think the guys have had that. I think the culture here has always been about work and getting better every single day, and that continues.
Okay.